Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm here with another board game review, and today I'll be telling you that why you should play Jamaica. Jamaica is a pirate themed racing game, but other than racing, you will be looting treasure in it, and the objective of the game is not just to be the first one out of the crossing the line, but also collecting the maximum treasure, because in the end whoever has the maximum treasure is going to be the winner, and crossing the line just gives you the maximum treasure in the end, or at least gives you a big boost on your treasure that you have collected. So whatever treasure you collect in your treasure hold, plus whatever treasure you will get by crossing the line, adding them up, whoever has the maximum gold is going to be the winner. So now that you know the gist of the game, let's get into a little bit more detail on how you play Jamaica. Jamaica is played with very simple mechanisms of action selection using cards. Every player will be picking up handful of cards which are going to have few symbols on the top. Again, these are very beautiful artwork on the cards, but what you are more interested as a functional thing is what are the two symbols on the left and right side of the card, and you can pick one of these cards that represent the two actions that you are going to do in that particular order, and the order of the actions matter a lot in this game. So out of your hand of cards you'll be picking one. The other thing that decides the decision which action you're going to take and when you're going to take that action is going to be based on these dice which the captain of the game, which is the current active player, is going to take, which is represented by this compass. So the captain will have a compass and he will get to roll the dice. And now, for example, I rolled a 5 and a 2. It will be up to the captain, the active player, that he gets to place them, which dice goes in the morning phase and which dice goes in the evening phase. So for example, if I place 5 in the morning and 2 in the evening, then that decides what will be the strength of my action which I'm going to take, which is represented on the left side of my card, morning side, and the right side of the card, which is the evening side. So for example, if I wanted to collect 5 gold, so I have this card which has gold on it and a movement icon on it. So I'm looking at that where my ship will be going, and accordingly, if this is really what I wanted, maybe that's what I'm selecting. So I'll be selecting, and each other player will be doing at this time same thing as well. They will be selecting from their hand of cards that what they want to do. So for example, I selected that I will be collecting 5 gold and then I will be moving 2 spaces on my turn. Everyone will select the card, keep it face down, and then do a simultaneous reveal that what is the card that everyone selected. So for example, I selected 5 gold and 2 movement, so I'll be taking 5 gold from the game's beautiful insert box. So as you can see, this box does look like a treasure chest, but once you move away the rule book, the game comes with a beautiful insert and everything is laid here in beautiful sections. So the insert is very functional. So I will be taking 5 gold from here, and when you are placing your items in your hold, then you are allowed to place them in an empty section. You can never overload the same section which has already been filled. So if I had gold already here in one of the holds, I couldn't load there, so I'm limited by the number of times I can fill up my hold. So it might be wise to actually empty out a section once in a while as well, which is going to happen to me anyway. That next thing that will happen later on in the evening phase is that I'm going to move 2 spaces, which will move my ship 2 spaces, and sometimes there will be some boxes shown on the map which represents how much food got consumed by your sailors by moving up to this space. So I'm going to be paying 3 food, which is what I had, for example, and I'll be returning 3 food to represent that my sailors ate up all the food, and now maybe for the next run I don't have enough food to feed my crew, and maybe next time I need to focus on that. Similar will be the next players action. And what he decided to do was that he wanted to go fast. He selected that they wanted to move. Their first action is a move action, which is 5. So they are going to move 5 spaces, 1 2 3 4 5, and then they were going to collect 2 food for them, and they will be collecting that 2 food. They went to a port, and just like some spaces have, you have to pay food as a currency because your sailors are moving in open sea. Once you reach a port, then maybe you're doing ship maintenance, you have to pay taxes, you have to do shopping, you have to buy more rum for your pirates, whatever it is. Then for that you have to pay some price at the port, which is representing 3, which the other player will have to pay. In case the other player is unable to pay that price, then the ship will move back to a certain space, that many spaces, according to what he can actually pay. So for example, luckily this space has no currency at all, and that's why maybe he selected it, because he said, well, doesn't matter, I don't have to pay anything because I will be moved one space back, and there I don't have to pay anything, so it's not a bad deal for me. That's why they selected this. Now, thematically, it may not make sense that, well, he didn't get, why is in a race the ship moving back? Well, sometimes you don't have enough food and you will have to move back. Also, it doesn't make sense. Well, if you were unable to feed your crew, will they take the ship back? So they are doing more work, rowing the ship back. So even though thematically it may not make sense, but it makes sense logically, that what's happening is that maybe the next day the morale was low, and that's why they will be having one less progress than what they were expected. So that's why you're starting slightly before. So even next day if you move, you will be ending up at a lower stage. So if you combine 2 turns in one, then it does make some logical sense. Now, what also this guy achieved by moving one space back is there are going to be these skull-shaped cave runs across the board, and on these cave runs there are going to be these treasure tokens placed. And also this was a very sneaky move that he did. He calculated that 5 I will not be able to pay, because if you are able to pay you have to stay there. I will not be able to pay, so I will be pushed back, and this is actually a space with still an active treasure on it, and you are going to steal this treasure. So that token will be removed from the game, and you will get to pick up one of the treasure card, and this treasure card will be kept hidden by the player, that what did he receive. It might be a good treasure, it might be, well, if it is a special weapon or special card, then he will get to reveal it. But if it is a treasure card, then he will keep it secret. But sometimes there are curse cards as well, and those curse cards are just going to lower down the value of your overall score. So sometimes you want to send that loot to someone. So how do you send that loot to someone else? Well, that comes when 2 ships fall on the same space. I have already told you most of the mechanisms of the game, that you roll the dice, you select a card, and then based on that card you are either collecting gold, food, moving your ship. But the third icon that will be also available is cannons, that you will be collecting these cannon tokens, which are actually going to be helpful in increasing your attack dice. Now, how does the attack work? If 2 ships land on the same space, then they are going to have a fight. And how the fight is done is using this attack dice. So the attacker is going to roll the dice, and that determines how much strength he's attacking with. Similarly, the defense player is going to roll the dice, and that's going to show his defense of what he's going to do. But any player can use his cannons to boost his attack as well. So for example, the first player may have used his 3 cannons to, whatever I will roll, this will add into that strength. But there is also this symbol which has just an explosion symbol, which means the other player doesn't even get to roll, you immediately sink their ship. So whenever you win in a combat, what's going to happen? You are going to take one of their holds, you are going to loot one of their things completely. So for example, if they had, let's say this player was looting me, they will be looking at my pile of gold and then saying, okay, this pile is bigger, I'm going to loot one complete hold of yours and taking this. If I was attacking them, it will be up to me. Ooh, do I want this treasure or do I want this gold? Gold I exactly know is going to give me points. But maybe the treasure is something they have been hoarding, and it's when they picked up that card, there was a sneaky smile on their face, and that treasure was really something good. Maybe I will steal this. And it was a -2 curse. So actually I'm going to be cursed. I don't want to reveal my expression because maybe some other player, I will, even though I will be feeling bad and the other player might be laughing in between, but I will try to make a happy face and hope someone else gets to steal it from me. So there are things like this that are going to happen. Plus, when the simultaneous reveal happens, you never know what the other player is going to select, and sometimes you're hoping they also move exactly according to that space, because you are seeing and calculating, okay, they have not used their movement card, they still have some movement cards left, so it's 5, so they will be reaching up to here, and a 2, which movement they will be using, what is more lucrative to the other player, where will they be trying to go, and can I go there as well? The other player is moving to, I'm coming from the back. Can I use my 5 to reach up to them and then attack them and take one of their loot holes, grab one of the loot? So these are the kind of things you will be thinking. You will be trying to think what the other player is going to do and trying to outsmart them. So that's all there is in the game. When it comes to the board, sometimes at 3 locations there are going to be multiple routes available as well. So whenever these islands come, there are 2 split ways. One takes the longer route but also has the treasures, the caves, but the other is the shorter route, and some players might be taking that, I have enough gold, I'll try to take the short route and try to complete the race first, and the other player might be trying to take the long route and collect more treasures, that I'll still beat him even if I come in second place, third place, as long as I have more treasure, I'm still going to be the winner. So that's all up to you, that how do you decide you want to play the game. How does one win? Once these ships reach all the way across this line, there is a red line on the board, which means that whichever ship has crossed this red line, they will be qualified to win. If you are behind this line, then those ships automatically get disqualified. So when some ship is trying to actually expedite and cross the finishing line, which is actually be going to the Port Royal here, so if they want to cross the Port Royal, there is still some space. So if you see someone crossing that, you want to expedite and at least cross this red line to be qualified for the race. Now, once they cross it, each of these spaces is going to have a money value written on it. So 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 up to 15, the money values are written. So wherever you will end up, that's how much additional money you're going to get once you cross the Port Royal. So for example, the first player who reaches Port Royal is going to get 15 additional gold. At the end, you will collect all your gold, reveal all your treasures, and that's how you will show that what's the total that you're going to get. The additional treasures, which I talked about, will be things like you can add an additional treasure hold to your ship, so now you can carry more variety of treasures or more type of treasures. This card, there are cannon cards which can add always 2 to your dice. Well, there are treasure cards, there are map cards, again different things that are going to be there that are available to the players. So treasures make the game very lucrative, and maybe you want it, maybe you don't. That's up to you to decide that how other players, this game is very dynamic based upon how other players are playing, and then you change your tactic accordingly. One last thing that I would also like to tell is how this black ship actually moves is because if you're playing with two or less players, well, two players, then you can add a third player, which is going to be an AI controlled rubber band player, which is a very simple mechanic that you're going to add. So it's sometimes going to move forward, sometimes going to move back based upon who is in the lead. So if this ship goes, it's going to do very simple actions and it will keep attacking. Its objective is very simple. So there are rules available in the game, but if you want to play this with less number of players, where the confrontation chances are less, because if someone has taken a lead, maybe those two ships will never catch up to each other. That's when this black ship is going to come into place, because it moves at really fast pace, and sometimes it might even go beyond the leading player, and at that time it will stop and wait for the other player to catch up and then attack them. So it has some really nice rubber banding kind of effect, that it goes back and forth, the leading player to trouble them. And of course, as long as the other players are next to it, then this is a real threat while they are on the board. So even the game works for two players, but of course if you have more players, then this game works better. So that's Jamaica. Beautiful components, beautiful artwork, and really nice presentation. The only thing that I don't like is this rule book format. It's easy to read, but oh my god. So this is how you have to, it doesn't open up as a normal rule book. It opens up like a map, and each section is like an island, and then it takes you to the next island. So a cool, well, presentation, and it's a very simple presentation, so it makes the game learning easy. But of course it's cumbersome if you have to check back on any rule or anything later on in the game. It makes it really bothersome to open up a whole chart and then find out that whether what was the rule clarification for that, how does X thing work. So that was the only thing I don't like. Now this is the slightly older version from Games Workshop. Now there is a new reprint of Jamaica available as well, which is in a more square box as well, but the artwork is exactly the same, the cards are same, the components are same. They have just put it in a more standardized square box, and maybe some symbols have been improved, but that's it. The actual game and the main artwork of the game has been kept as such, which is already perfect. So if you are looking for a simple racing game, then you cannot go wrong with Jamaica. It might feel a little bit too simplistic sometimes, that you are just selecting a card and see what happens. Sometimes that, especially with low player count, that uh, leading effect of the first player, if he moves a lot in the first turn and leaves other players in the back, then slows down to collect all the triggers, that might be one of the tactics that a player uses, that makes the game a little bit unfun, because then he will be playing all alone while he's not interacting with each other, because this game is supposed to be interactive, but due to some of the game mechanics of how the game allows those things to develop, I'll say this is not a player fault, this is the game's fault, that sometimes it does allow a player to actually move away from all other players and then slow down the game, not slow down the game, and remove the interaction part of the game. So that is one flaw that does exist in the gameplay, which can happen. So as long as no players exploit this flaw in the game, you're going to have good sessions of Jamaica. Good for a laugh, very simple mechanics, anyone can pick up and start playing this game, very simple to teach and rule, and it looks lovely on the table. So if this is something best for you, hope I was able to explain whether this will be the right kind of game for you or not. Very simple battle mechanics, which some might think are too simplistic, and sometimes when two peoples are battling each other, the other persons have no interest in it. That can happen also, but the battle happened very quickly, so it's not a big issue, and everyone is rooting to see what happens. So that's also an interesting part. You have to be interested in board games anyway for them to generate fun for you. All right, that's it for my conclusion of Jamaica. A nice racing game, which slightly has aged, slightly has random elements, but still a good game, a good racing game. And if you're looking for something different, which is not present in any other racing game, then this might be a good alternate. So that's it for me. Hopefully, you had a much better explanation or much clearer about whether this game is going to be right for you or not. That's it for me. Happy gaming.